Good morning, it's Crystal Roy with Witness Wednesday and the Kingdom Exchange, here to talk to you about the glory of God, how to walk in His glory, and how to bring His will down on earth as it is in heaven for your lives and for the lives of the people you love. And so today I want to talk to you about why we don't surrender. Jesus said, if you love me, you will obey what I command. Some of the reasons that we don't obey what He commands is we don't know what He's commanding. Also, we might disagree with it, right? We might have a mindset that says that was for a different age, a different era, that was only for the disciples, that was only for the apostles. We don't have healing today, we don't have prophets today. But I'm here to tell you, if you really go before the Lord, He will tell you the truth about all that. And you'll learn that those things are very much for today. I want to talk to you about the environment in your mind, what's between your ears and in your heart. We have lots of environments that we deal with in life. And the one between your ears is probably the one that's most informative. It informs you, and that's how you live your life. I want to read Luke 9:23. Let me pull it up here. I've been in Luke 9 for months now, and the Lord just won't let me move on. But I'm so glad because I've learned so much diving in deep. This is after Jesus fed the thousands. After He prophesied His own death and resurrection, He's asking, who do people think I am? And then they answered. The disciples answered. Some are convinced you're the prophet John who has returned. And others say that you're Elijah, or perhaps one of the Jewish prophets brought back from the dead. Jesus said, who do you believe that I am? And that's so important for us because based on who we believe Jesus is, that's how we live our life. Peter said, you are the one anointed, God's Messiah. Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone yet, but He said, the Son of Man is destined to experience great suffering and face complete rejection by the Jewish leaders and religious hierarchy. He will be killed and raised back to life on the third day. Now, they had seen this before. They'd seen someone die and raise. They'd seen Lazarus. They'd seen many people raised from the dead from Jesus outside, making that resurrection possible. So now they had to stand in a new level of faith. But Jesus said to all of His followers what it means to follow Jesus. If you truly desire to be my disciple, you must disown your life completely. Embrace my cross as your own and surrender to my ways. So what's Jesus's cross? Obviously, Jesus's cross was to suffer and die. And, we're definitely going to suffer. Will we die for Jesus? Many will. Many will die for Jesus. But it simply means, I believe, when we take up Jesus' cross, we are giving up the will and the plans for our own life, for the will and the plans of God for our life. And I have done that. I don't mean perfectly or completely, and it's still a work in progress. But I know that growing up in church, we had different missionaries come and talk about what it meant to live a life in the field, in missionary fields, in places where there were cannibals present. And, some youngsters and anyone can become afraid, oh no, God's going to call me to go live in the African jungle. Well, if He does, He's going to put a love in your heart for those people. That's what He did me. He put me in the midst of a people group who are not just don't know the gospel, Not just think, well, it's one of the different ways to God. God put me in the middle of a people group that is hostile to the gospel. And could I have died? Oh, a few times, yeah. And still yet may. I don't believe that's the plan that God has for my life, to die. But if that's what happens, I win. Because not only have I brought people to Christ from a culture that is bound by the lies of Satan, but I have won because I will be in heaven when I die. So I win. But again, I don't believe that's what God has for me. But again, if God brings you to any people group, any tribe in Africa, which is kind of the extremes that we might think of in America, but of course in Africa, they go to their own tribes. And if God brings us through by way of death or by way of bringing us back home, my life is His. So I'm going to bear my cross by doing what God has called me to do. Today, your cross is in your own home, and it is dealing with your own home folks. You are to love your neighbor as yourself, and your first neighbor is sleeping on the other side of the bed from you. Might be in the bedroom next to you. If you're a young person under 18, it's definitely your brother and sister. So if we're to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, what do we first have to do? We have to have love for ourselves. That's not an arrogant love. It's not a prideful love. It is simply a love that says, I know who I am, and I have boundaries, and I'm going to let you know what they are and when they're crossed, right? But some of the reasons that we don't surrender to God and allow Him to live His life, Jesus to live His life through us, is because we don't have any hope. And sometimes we have inadvertently made a vow to ourselves, like, it can't possibly be done. That's making a vow to yourself. It's saying, I trust in what I know more than saying to myself that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So we have to decide every morning when we wake up who rules our life. And God will not rule you in a harsh way. There might be some hard times. There may be some correction needed. But surrender early. Surrender early to correction. That makes a big difference in your life. But I want to talk to you about miracles. This is the month of November when typically we're thankful. And on this Witness Wednesday, I want to encourage you to recall all the miracles of God in your life. I want you to write them down every day. I want you to recall the presence of God in your life and the kingdom exchange. I've had so many miracles in my life, and I love writing them down. I love recalling them. I love giving glory and honor to God for the miracles in my life. But you know what? Many times we can get hung up on the traumas and on the pain. That is not having the mind of Christ. You have to choose every moment, and I think scientists will tell us, 100,000 times a minute. You have to decide what you're going to think on. And I just challenge you to think on these things. Think on the things that God has told us to think on. Things that are true. Things that are noble. Things that are holy. Things that are right? You have to guard your heart by thinking on the right things. You can get off thinking on the wrong things so much that you completely destroy good relationships. And I want to share something that happened to me in the past week. I was talking with one of my children. And he said he homeschooled himself. I guess he would say that he's a self-made man. And I did not argue, but I said, that's not truth. That's all I said. when I saw that the way was open, the bridge had, the lowered, so now I can walk on it, I said to him, do you remember all the times when you were engaged with university model co-op school, when you went to classes 3 times a week with other students? You chose your classes. The fellow parents were the teachers in their field. We did that with 2 different co-ops. Do you remember when I myself founded and designed and established a co-op where twice a week you were going among your peers to university model classes and where you learned from other people? Do you remember gymnastics? Do you remember soccer? Do you remember t-ball? Do you remember all of these activities for socialization? Just because you're homeschooling doesn't mean you're your child's only teacher. It means you choose their teachers. So for 15 years we homeschooled. I taught this young man how to read. I spent an entire summer studying how children learn to read, okay? I developed a reading program, and in 8 weeks this kid had learned to read on the 2nd grade level and had mastered not only reproduced easily with excellence all the kindergarten objectives, all the 1st grade objectives, and all the 2nd grade objectives in 8 weeks. And I called my husband at work and I said, oh my gosh, what do I do? He just finished all the 2nd grade stuff. And he goes, put him in 3rd grade. I'm like, he's 5, so I was like, I don't need a 12-year-old in college who can't process all the adult stuff of college, so let's just cool our jets. So we got very informal. Still fun. Like we homeschooled at the zoo one day, and we talked about habitat, and we talked about foods, and we talked about countries of origin, and, unit studies where we studied the Bible and all of creation. But this kid's recollection is that he homeschooled himself because I taught him to be an independent learner. We did rely on worksheets. Those are simple and easy. And again, I'm gearing him for college. I'm gearing him for adulthood. I'm training my 5, my 6, my 7, my 8, my 9, my 10-year-old to be an adult, right? And I did give him playtime. I did give him free time. I did give him time with friends. I was not his only teacher. And you've seen some homeschool families who don't leave the house and they don't know anybody and all they know is each other. And isolate, that's not what we did. Now, when this certain child was 10, I did begin my career as a realtor at my husband's insistence. Little did we know, just a few years later, that he would die, and that would be what I would use to support him, this child, and the rest of the family. And I thank God for that. But because I had trained this child to be an independent studier and learner and a thinker, he was able to succeed, The oldest was magna cum laude, Dean's List, President's List every semester. I mean, that's through, of course, I was the partner in that, but I don't take credit for that. That person, that child, that son, that oldest did the work. The second son got his bachelor's and his MBA in the same semester, so yeah, we're a little overachiever there. He went to 2 colleges at the same time. That's not unusual in our family. And then the third told me he homeschooled himself. And I said, that's not true. Not arguing. But once I saw he was open for me to take a couple more steps, I reminded him of the truth. Not in an argumentative way. Just a couple of brief statements of fact. So as we think of the rest of this month, getting together with family, and sometimes family we only see once a year, and some for good reason, I want you to practice that. When you're faced with something that's not true, the way we love our neighbors as ourselves is to first love you and have boundaries. And sometimes that boundary is simply going to say, that's not truth. And then if that person leaves the door open to take another step, you can use a couple of quick examples about why that's not true. But I want you to recount the miracles of God in your life this month. And I want to read Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, we're God's chosen people to represent Him on earth and to partner with God to bring His will down on earth as it is in heaven. And this Thanksgiving, you might have a great opportunity with a table full, with a house full of people to share the love of God. But therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, we are holy. We're set apart for His purposes as much as we surrender. Right? We have a water closet in my master bathroom, in our master bathroom. That water closet is dedicated to potty activities, I'm going to say. It's holy. And by that I mean it's set apart for a specific service. And that's what this word means. Holy. I am set apart by surrender to the Holy Spirit for a specific service for God. And dearly loved. Remind yourself, God dearly loves you. So therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves. Who's going to do the clothing? We ask God for miracles. Oh, Lord, I need to lose 30 pounds. I need a miracle. No. He's saying, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. So when people see us, see you, see me, do they see the compassion of the Creator that we should have clothed ourselves in? So today when you get dressed, clothe yourself. Put on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. I want to share when my kids were studying homeschooled, we had some SAT spelling programs. We had an assignment each day of the week, again self-directed, independent study. It was simple. It was a process. It was a system that I put in place so these young men could be successful for themselves. And yes, they were 10 and they were 11 and they were 12 and they were 18 and they were doing this. And I was less and less involved and they were more and more responsible. That is how you raise adults. But I also was a taskmaster. And I remember the day that word came up on the spelling list, taskmaster, and they were supposed to use it in a sentence, and they said, Mom is a taskmaster. I think we probably had a couple more words because I required adjectives and adverbs in each sentence. So Mom is always a harsh taskmaster was probably the sentence. So I was, I had to check myself. What did they mean and what do I mean? And they were right. I mean, I wasn't always a harsh taskmaster, but I could be. I really could be. I was raising men, and I had grown up in a toxic, traumatic environment, and it seemed like once the oldest got like a 1/4 inch taller than me, the dynamics changed. And, like a cat will get in a compromising situation and right? It will raise its back, arch its back, and it's floofing its fur and it's raising its tail. Well, moms do that. They put their hands on their hips, especially short moms. But I remember the day the Lord told me with my oldest, and I did have an anger problem. I was completely delivered of anger when I was, how old was I? I was 35. I was completely, fully delivered of a spirit of anger that was driving my bus. I didn't know it until it left, who the driver was. I thought that was me. I thought, well, I'm angry because, But when I was delivered of anger, and I was a Christian. Christians can be hijacked for sure. And it left me, and I went, oh my gosh, that wasn't me the whole time. But I want to tell you about my oldest son. The Lord had told me one day, because I was like, this kid is going to measure up, right? I was harsh. I was angry because I didn't want this child I didn't want him to destroy his life with his choices. And I read in James, I think 1:5, Man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. And that's exactly why I was using anger as a tool. And the Lord convicted me. And I said, okay, Lord, I need help. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to, drive my sons with anger. I want them to know my love. But I also felt from my traumatic growing up that if you showed vulnerability, if you cried or showed tenderness, that you were prey. You were definitely prey. So I had this hard exterior, and I was small, and these men were getting larger, and then they were dealing with their emotions, their hormones, learning what a man is. But I remember the day, the miracle, that the Lord said to me, treat my son tenderly. Oh my goodness. He's your son? I knew that. I dedicated all of my sons to God on the day they were born. As soon as I knew they were males, I started praying for their wives, and we didn't have gender reveals back in that day. But I want to tell you about clothing yourself, because that's what we must do. Why are we not revealing the glory of God to people in our lives? Is because we're wearing sometimes the wrong clothing. So back to Corinthians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Oh, we're praying for God to make a miracle. God, make me patient. Make me compassionate. Make me kind. Make me humble. Make me gentle. And, some of these things are certainly the fruit of the Spirit. That means you are surrendering yourself for the Holy Spirit to produce that in you. But you first must clothe yourself with these things. So when people see you, and when people might see you at Thanksgiving, will they see the compassion of their Creator? Will we treat God's children tenderly? Now, hurt people, rejected people, hurt and reject people. And you've seen that. But how have you felt the compassion of God through another person? Think about that. I want you to really take notes and write that down. How have you felt the compassion, the kindness, the humility, the gentleness, and the patience through another person? How has God been that to you through someone else? Have you ever been the compassion of God to another person? You must first put it on. Clothe yourself with it. That's our responsibility. Like when I got dressed this morning for our meeting here together, I clothed myself. And I decided what I was going to wear. Now, sometimes the Lord will actually give me an idea of what to wear. I will ask Him, what do I wear? I remember one time I went to, I went to see, or actually to share at a Muslim Friday prayer. I was asked by the host of that group if I would come and share what a Christian is to a group of Muslims during their High Holy Friday prayer. And I said, Lord, what do I wear? I could not get this red dress out of my mind. I had a red dress with it was kind of a white collar back in the early 2000s, actually. And it was not risque in any way. It had no cleavage. It was red, though. And I knew the Muslims considered red to be ladies of the evening dress color. And here I was going to walk in with the red dress. And oh my goodness, that testimony. And I've shared that before. It was beautiful. How God had prepared me that week to share. How He perfectly aligned a visual example of His presence and how He speaks to us individually. It was beautiful. But I clothed myself, knowing what the thoughts would be. But I did it because I wanted to obey the Lord. And as it turns out, I was able to use that red as an example for the blood of Jesus. And I saw the shift of the thinking in the minds of the people. But I want to ask you I'm going to challenge you for this next week and the rest of your life. Can I challenge you for the rest of your life? I want you to hardly notice when people fail you. Hardly notice when people fail you. Now, this is not the same as being run over because someone is violating your safety boundaries. But when people mess up, I want you to hardly notice. I want you to clothe yourself with compassion and kindness and gentleness. And let me read this list again. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And when you do that, you can set yourself up to hardly notice when people fail you. Now, remember when I remarried and I had asked specific people to do specific parts for the wedding. And I should have known better. And some really significant things got totally missed. And, had to decide what was going to make my day. Right? We have to decide what is going to make my day. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It matters how you respond to it. That's how you can have two people in the exact same setting experiencing pretty much the same thing, right? Maybe different points of view. But they're going to decide what that looks like. Now, I will tell you another view. Pardon me, my nose is itchy today. A very close family member, adult, who saw how I was with my children while they were being homeschooled for years together intimately with us, with this same child who said he homeschooled himself, right? So this adult told me later, Crystal, I think any of your sons could literally be president of the United States because of how you are engaged with them, how you lead them, how you guide them, how you teach them, how you train them. That's an adult's point of view of the exact same thing that my 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, now 29-year-old says, I homeschooled my son. Okay? Point of view is very important, but hardly notice when people fail you. Now, this son is operating out of a broken heart. I can tell. But what is impossible with God? No, nothing, not one thing, right? What is impossible with man is possible with God. The great news is continuing this conversation with this young man. I think I got through a little bit. Now, I didn't share about my friend who was like a family member. I think I called her a family member just a minute ago. But our kids grew up together. So we were with each other a lot. And she said, oh my gosh, Crystal, how you have really been on the job. Your children's mother, they could become president of the United States because I see how you've trained them. I've seen the character you've helped develop. But my son was like, yeah, I did this myself. But I want us this week, and especially this month of November, to give your heart to God, especially in places of hurt. Forgive that person who hurt you. Even if that person is not still living, you can still forgive and break that bondage, I'm going to say, to the hurt. But I want to ask you to reacquaint yourself with God's miracles. I want you to acknowledge His presence and surrender to that. This is how we get out of the way of God. Get out of God's way to do His will on earth as it is in heaven. And I want you to acknowledge God's presence and surrender to Him. And some of you might say, well, I don't feel God's presence. Have you ever felt love? That's His presence. I'm talking the real God love. I'm not talking love is love, because love is not love. There are so many corrupt things out there that are being called love, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real love. Like, for example, when you hold your baby in your arms, or if you've not been able to have children. I don't want you to feel like you've never felt love. But what about the love of your husband when he brings you your favorite coffee and knows to put extra cream? Right? Those little things are also love. So if you have felt love, you've been in the presence of God, because God is love. He's that true, right love. Have you ever felt joy? That's the presence of God. Have you ever felt peace? That's the presence of God. And their love, joy, peace, patience. Have you ever had patience that was outside your patience? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. These are all the fruits of the Spirit, which is the presence of God. So I want you to start labeling. You know, I'm teaching my granddaughter to read. And we're circling letters in magazines, and we're labeling things that, short words with letters. We're labeling with Post-it notes around the house. That's how she's learning to read. How you can learn to recognize the presence of God is to label it. And I want you to label it. And then you're going to label when it's not God. Hurt. Fear. Lust. And not like the wrong sexual attraction towards something. It's having your own way. Being a bulldozer. Having your own way, no matter who it hurts, what the cost is. Because you are the center of the universe, right? I'm selfish. This is all about me. I don't care what God's will is. I'm going to do what I want to do. That is not faithfulness. That is lust. Anger. Now, there are two angers. I want to be very clear. There is a righteous anger that says you've been used, abused, or neglected. But you must not sin with that anger. Jesus even said, be angry, but don't sin. And then there's the unrighteous anger. That is the murderous anger. That leads to death. Death of your own soul. There's guilt. That is not from God. God wants us to be convicted. Are we guilty? 100%. We all deserve death and a trip to hell. But thank God for Jesus, that He became a man who was flesh. He dwelt among us and said, hey, I got this. Don't be afraid. I've come. I've come. I've come that you may be one, and that you may be one in me, and that I am one with the Father, and together we're one. And then shame. Shame is not from the Father. So I want you to label how you're feeling. And then you'll know why you have or haven't surrendered to the will of God. And this is about us clothing ourselves with the things we talked about today. Compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, so that we can represent God on the earth. So that we can lift Jesus up so all men are drawn to us, and that we can reveal God's glory. And Jesus said He's given us the glory. But if you are not shining in God's glory for all to see, look at what you've clothed yourself with today. Right? This is not for condemnation at all. Maybe you didn't know. We don't know. We have to say, Lord, what are we doing today? Clothe me with your presence. I want to surrender so that I'm not about me and my will. I want your will to be done. Sometimes walking in God's will be painful and can be hurtful. Don't get me wrong, there can be a price to pay, but it's worth it. It's worth it to do God's will, for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven, through you, for your assignment to be completed on the earth. And I want to encourage you to do that. So as you acknowledge, oh, that's God's presence, I want you to get higher. I want you to go higher. I want you to see where you have a right attitude about something, and I want you to see where you have a wrong attitude about something, because we should have the same attitude as Christ Jesus. That's what the Bible says. We want to get out of our own way. I want to share an example. I have someone I love dearly who was struggling with his mind. He was struggling with, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I knew from his comments and complaints that he was struggling, really struggling with his mind. I don't think he was having temptations or whatever, but he was having lack of clarity. And so I thought, well, let me change the environment here and get rid of some clutter, because I know clutter contributes to an unclear mind. So I started putting things away, storing them where they belong. You know, when your wife hides stuff, like when your wife hides your keys by putting them on the key hook, and your wife hides your coat by hanging it in the coat closet, that kind of thing. But the attitude of the mind was wrong. It was, oh, she doesn't want me here, I don't belong here, this is not my place. That was not the attitude of Christ Jesus. That was the attitude of misunderstanding and a hurt mind. So we must be careful of that. We must talk with each other and share, hey, can you tell me why you did this? Not in a way that makes somebody feel stupid, but in a way that's just exploring. Hey, can you share why you put everything on the top shelf where I can't reach it? And somebody might go, oh my gosh, I completely didn't think about that, right? It could be something really simple. But if I say, oh my gosh, that person put something completely out of my reach because he hates me and he wants to cause me more trouble. I mean, that's a troubled mind that's coming to that conclusion. We must have the mind of Christ, right? That's the only way to surrender to the Holy Spirit, is to have the mind of Christ. So I want to challenge you. How are you evaluating the things that are happening to you? Are you having the attitude of Christ? I want to challenge you to find out what that is. I want you to forgive. Forgive that person. When you're hurt, it means you need to forgive. You do need to later, at a time when it's not a time of conflict, circle back to that and say, hey, in the next couple of days, can we take about 5 minutes to talk about, and specific example here, about all the things that you moved to the top shelf, right? So it's different from, hey, we need to talk. Nobody wants to hear that. Not men or women, but especially men. We need to talk. Nobody wants to hear that. But if you say, hey, in the next couple of days, would you have about 5 or 10 minutes to talk about the list of chores that we said we were going to do last Friday, but you didn't show up? Can we talk about that? So that's a way that you can have an initiation into maybe a hard conversation, for you to have better understanding, to reconnect after conflict or perceived conflict, to have the mind of Christ toward that person. Now, you may have people you've invited or you don't want to invite to Thanksgiving because of some specific conflict in the past. So you might want to say, hey, in the next couple of days, do you think we could get on the phone for about a 10-minute call to talk about a couple of things that are bothering me? If that person flips out and goes, no, I'm not going to do that, don't ask again. Just let it go. You have done your part, and you take it to the Lord, and you forgive and release. But then also you have to decide, is that person coming over? Is that person invited or not invited? And if you've got a history of conflict with that person, and your core values of your family is peace, core values of your house is peace, that we treat each other and we correct each other with kindness and respect, and we don't throw anyone away, you still might have to have boundaries to not invite that person in. Now, if someone's living in your home, you don't throw them away, But you might have, some other strategy that everyone needs to work through together, that everyone agrees to. But I want you to forgive. Forgive now. And surrender your rights, even your right to be right, to God. Surrender your rights to God now, before you even get into the conversation. And then let God do something new. Release God to do something new in you and in that other person. And when you come back together, healed and delivered and set free, you're going to have the victory. That's how we become transfigured to become like Christ. When Christ was on the mountain, he had gone through his prayers. He had said to the Father, oh boy, I don't want to drink this cup. Let this cup pass from me. But nonetheless, not my will, but your will be done. Now, he was positioned to receive the glory of God because he received God's will written on his heart and written in his life. That's what you and I are called to do. To share in Christ's glory is to give up your will, my will, and for God's will to be done in our lives. That means in every area of your life. So that means physically, right? I've been asking the Lord for a miracle, for weight loss, but guess what? If I'm supposed to clothe myself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, I have got to eat the right things and avoid the wrong things in order to accomplish what the Lord has told me to do. It was very clear. It's a challenge. Pray for me to be successful. And then spiritually, what has the Lord called you to do spiritually? Are you supposed to read your Bible every day? Well, can you have any close relationship with the person you're really not talking to in depth every day? Right? And journaling, writing what you hear from God. So how do you hear from God? I have some sweet, respectful people who highly, loudly disagree that you and I hear from God today, that the only thing that's written in the Bible is what we can hear. But I know that's not true. So I would respectfully say that's not truth. Right? So when you read the word and the verse just jumps into your heart, that's God illuminating that to your heart and mind. And then, like when I was standing at my sock drawer and a miracle, God said to me, Brian White, raised from the dead. That's not in the Bible. But guess what? Within 7 days, Brian White was raised from the dead. That's a beautiful story of God. It's not Crystal's story. It's God's story. And God will speak to you. So, I challenge you today to develop or receive your prayer language. I will tell you that it will become very, very important to you because in Revelations it tells us that people and nations and tribes and tongues will be ruled by the Antichrist. Did you hear that last one? Those earthly tongues will be controlled and ruled by the Antichrist, but not God's heavenly tongues. So I challenge you to get with the Lord if you don't have your prayer language and just sit with Him. Put on some worship music. Whatever it is that brings you into the presence of God. Remember, the presence of God is simply experiencing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, and the sweetness of His presence. I'm a weeper. I'm sorry. I've always had a travailing spirit. I cannot worship and sing songs without my eyes leaking, pouring. Like even now when I think about the presence of God, I feel Him. I know His presence. I know He is always with me. Okay? So now, talk, Crystal. Now it's time to be quiet. Hear, listen. If you've seen Jesus before, You just imagine, all those times that you have been with him. And you're right there with him again. And then you just say, Jesus, what do you have to say to me? Even Father, Holy Spirit, what do you have to say? And then capture it. Write down what he is saying. It can be as silly as Toy Story. My husband and I were sitting down and asking the Lord about a car. Of all the hundreds of thousands, I don't know, car choices. And so the Lord told me Toy Story. And then he said van, and I'm like, I don't want a van. I'm a grandma, but I don't want a van. And then he said license plate. I'm like, license plate? Okay. And then I thought, well, what's on the license plate? So I looked it up. A113. There's a whole cute story with Pixar that goes along with that. And I thought, okay, so I wasn't hearing anything else. So I'm like, okay, well, let me look up A113 vehicle. And it was a BMW. A very ritzy $300,000 concept car, which I knew was not for me. But the BMW, right? So I wrote down BMW. And so my husband's sitting here praying and listening and hearing, and he's not written down anything. So I'm like feeling, am I in the wrong direction? Am I off? What have I done? You can say, well, you thought that up yourself, Crystal, right? But I said, hey, do you have anything yet? And he said, hold on a minute, I see it. I'm like, oh, okay. I heard all those things. And he's seeing, he's looking, he's telling me the color. He says, hold on a minute, I'm walking to the front to look at the emblem. And he says, oh, it's a BMW. Well, what are the chances? What are the chances, right? 100%. Because we both hear from God. We both captured and treasured what God was saying to us. And guess what? I said, well, what do you think if we go ahead and reach out to my nephew who's an expert with cars? And I said, hey, Ricky, what do you think? We need a new car. What would you recommend? He said a BMW all the way. Okay, so now we have a natural expert. And then I Googled it. I found something available within like 15 miles of us in my price range. And I sent the link to my nephew, and he said, if you don't buy that car, I'm going to go buy it. And if you buy it and hate it, you can sell it and make money. So the next day, we went and bought that car. God speaks to us today. So put your worship music on. Get into the presence of the Lord. Start your prayer language, speaking in tongues. Write down what you hear, which means you got to be quiet. You got to be quiet and listen. Write down what you hear. You might hear a Bible verse. Like last night, it was just a Bible verse that Jesus was saying to me. And then he started telling me some other things that I was like, hold on, that was about you. But I wrote it down. I'm like, Jesus, are you saying that about me? But you know what? If I'm in him and he's in me, and those verses were for him, they're also for me. And so I'm asking him for a huge miracle the size of heaven. I have actually a few miracles lined up. I'm asking God for a huge miracle the size of heaven. And he said he's going to give it to me. So I'm just thanking him now and praising him. And clothing myself. Right? We want God to do everything, but that's not how it works. I want to challenge you today. Clothe yourself. And again, this is Colossians 3:12. We must become the radiant glory of God for people around us. We must, especially as the time gets more challenging and short. We must be transfigured into that glory of God for other people to be drawn to the Jesus in us. Now, it's not about Crystal. I have no glory. None. I still make mistakes every day. I still say the wrong things. I still mess up. But God, I need to decrease and allow Jesus to increase. I want to be like Enoch, who was with God and was not. There was no more Enoch. There was only God. And that's what I want for my life. And the way my part is not to pray for a miracle, but it is to clothe myself. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And I challenge you, hardly notice when people fail you. They're just human. They're God's children. And like He told me when I was being harsh, right is right and wrong is wrong. But if you throw children out and reject them, you've caused irreparable harm in their lives. And the Lord corrected me. I mean, the child was of age. He was an adult, so to speak. And it was time to go. They didn't have the tools to go. He didn't have a way to go. And God told me clearly, treat my son tenderly. Oh boy. I was corrected. And I remembered that. And then I protected that son to be treated tenderly at great, great cost to myself. But I do not regret it. I do not regret honoring God at all. I do not regret obeying God. I would do it again, probably differently, with more wisdom. But that is what God has called us to do, to treat His children, no matter if it's your natural born child or anybody else. Let's say if it's your worst enemy, it's still a child of God, a pre-Christian child of God. And who knows that maybe your love is the one that changes their hearts. So I want to leave you with this blessing. Father, help us to obey your word, to follow where you lead, and to surrender our wills for your will to be done in our lives. And Father, for these who are wanting to draw closer to you through the kingdom exchange, for your will being done on earth as it is in heaven, show them today how to get quiet and hear from you and write down what they're hearing. And Lord, if they come to you with questions, I know you will answer, because your word says, call unto me, and I will answer you and show you great and unsearchable things that you do not know. And I thank you, Father. And Lord, may we always also give you freedom to answer whatever question you want to answer at that time. So, Father, I bless these. I pray that you bless these, keep these, make your face shine upon these, be gracious to them, give them peace, and may they always sense your Holy Spirit within them and will to do your will in Jesus' name. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.